Hello dear viewers and welcome back to another episode of ForSense. My name is Amilcar and I am a sci-fi and dark fantasy author. I'm going to do this review differently because watching this episode felt mostly like an insult, I must say. The best way I can describe it is a group of women in high heels walking over the testicles of a line of men. The episode is split in three parts and two interwoven parallel plots. The first showed the progression of the relationship between Tarima and Caleb. While Caleb is still one of the two characters I salvaged from this monstrosity of a show, I don't understand how an explicit or almost explicit set scene adds anything to the story. In fact, I don't see how it connects to the rest of the plot at all. I mean, it could have conveyed the same intimacy far more effectively without showing the act itself. For example, by opening the episode with the post-sex conversation instead of the act. And I am not a prude or a Puritan, but I do believe everything needs its proper time and place. And this was not the time and not the place for this kind of situation, if you want to call it that way, in a show of this kind or this type. Even worse, the editors were apparently so aroused by the sex part that they missed glaring continuity errors. Caleb, for example, is in boxers 1 second, in full-length pants the next one, and back into boxers immediately after. And on top of that, the sexual details involving other species are childish at best. I mean, the ritual Tarima describes, is fantastic in the worst way. Absurd and bordering on ridiculous. Worst of all, while the two of them are alone in bed, she whispers the key detail about this ritual, if you want to call it that way, in his ear. So the audience won't hear it with its stupid I don't know, it's just insane. It's absurd. And that's inherently nonsensical. Clearly the writers of this disaster have zero idea what a real bedroom conversation sounds like. Apparently they have never been with anyone they didn't have to pay or who didn't live right after. And by the way, they could have used camera angles to avoid showing the characters in underwear right after an almost explicit sex scene. If you already shown everything, it's illogical for them to suddenly be covered up. I said it again, the writers have no clue about this kind of interactions. That's a fact. Anyway, moving on to the second plot thread, Nala announced joint training exercise between the Academy and the War College, and this will be in mixed group. The exercise involves reactivating life support on a ship that suffered an accident. In this case, they will be using a ship that is in a space graveyard, the Miyazaki. The cadets are split into two main groups, those who will board the abandoned ship and those who will stay on the bridge as command officers. The boarding team debuts a new plasma-based survival suite. And here the serious problems begin. This is what happens when writers tackle subjects they clearly don't understand. Plasma exists, and in sci-fi it's usually associated with weapons because plasma is the state matter reaches after gas when you apply extreme heat or a lot of electricity. It's basically super hot electrified gas. The sun is plasma, lining its plasma, the inside of a fluorescent tube is plasma. In short, plasma is equal to extremely hot gas plus electrical charge. Now, how the hell is that supposed to work as protective material for a suit? I mean, plasma itself is what needs to be contained. The thing containing the plasma is what protects the user. Usually it could be a magnetic field, not the plasma. And to top it off, why does Sam, who is an hologram, have one of these suits? In the scene, you can clearly see her activated and the signature green glow appears. And that makes absolutely no fucking sense. The group advanced without major issues, finding sealed panels on the floor that are clean of dust on the outside but full of it on the inside. Magic. They make convenient use of things like programmable matter, and along the way, Caleb explains the audience how the Federation used comics because they tell the story how they explain how the Miyazaki story is on a comic, and Caleb said that the Federation is using these comics for its pro-colonization propaganda, because of course that's what this show is about: educating and indoctrinating its viewers. Anyway. Meanwhile, on the bridge, the students report that the ship is being boarded by unknown life forms and that its systems have been locked down. Nala receives a transmission in which a group of pirates introduce themselves as the Fury, and demand that the Federation pay a ransom for the cadets they have taken hostage. I have to pause here because I genuinely can't get over how insanely fast these pirates are. I mean, in what should be, I don't know, maybe 56 seconds, they managed to lock down the Athena and all its systems, board the ship, the Miyazaki, capture the students, and send a video transmission from a ship that was completely dead, with no systems and absolutely nothing functional except the teeny bit that Caleb barely managed to repair with his magical programmable matter. 56 seconds. Not even in Fast and Furious or in 60 seconds. That's ridiculous, even for a cheap soap opera. And on the other hand, wouldn't the most logical thing in the world have been to swap out the students for the actual command officers who are normally on the bridge? Like, for example, the fat one with the lesbian haircut? Or any of the adults who are supposed to have training and experience? And that's exactly the problem with this kind of stories. The writers desperately want to give spotlight to the main characters, especially the young and empowered women, but the situation end up completely lacking any internal logic. It's clear to me that the bunch of window leakers who worked on the script have absolutely no idea how to write a coherent plot or how to create characters who behave in a rational, consistent way within the universe they themselves made up. And because of screw-ups like this, for example, when the Fury threatened to space someone out the airlock, Sam should have immediately volunteered. Not only does she not need to breathe in space, but she could have beamed over the Athena to deliver crucial, crucial logistical intel and help resolve the crisis. Anyway, from here on, I'm breaking the rest of the episode into parts to make it easier to swallow. As you'll see through this episode, there are artificially constructed characters pairs in which the men are only there so the woman can shine. On the bridge, for example, the entire plot, or most of the plot, revolves around Genesis because she, as a very self-respecting woman, empowered woman, has all the ideas and solve absolutely everything. And the worst part of all is that the dialogue is so idiotic, so stupid, that it doesn't even manage to achieve decent character development. Genesis, in order to sound smart to the writer's taste, throw around terms like subimpulse velocity, which is absurd in and on itself, or a needle in a haystack made of needles, which is, as I said before, it's stupid as an example and beyond absurd. And as a result, Darren's character has been completely watered down to become basically Genesis' hapless sidekick. He exists solely to highlight how wonderful Genesis is. And on the flip side, why do they even keep the fat aesthetic girl around if she goes into fush state during every single crisis? I mean, the presence of that character is straight up blatant virtue signaling and anything else. On his part, the solution to the whole problem that they have with the pirates comes courtesy of Nusbraka. And first off, I'm stunned that being a well-known smuggler and supposedly an enemy of the Federation for trying to steal the Athena and having survived in a survived pod in the middle of nowhere, they managed, the Federation, to find him and bring him to the Athena in a matter of, I don't know, minutes? And I say minutes because supposedly the Furies are going to eat the hostages after 5 hours from boarding the Miyazaki. So, his interaction with Nala is divided into 3 parts. The first one, after drinking tequila and using an old record player, he makes it clear to Nala that she needs him, not the other way around, emphasizing his dominance in the situation. From this point, I'll give credit where it's due to the character it's well writing here. Using manipulation and psychological attacks, he actually managed to crack Nala for moments, like when he brings up the memory of her son to mess with her. After a pause, Nala arrives in a very strange way at the conclusion that Nus is afraid of the Furies and really wants to use the Federation to get rid of them. This lets Nala come back empowered, belittling and treating Nus like a coward. At this point, I find it absurd because no matter how much he wanted to get rid of them, they, the Federation, were the ones who called him. So they never had the upper hand. So, for the writers, this whole charade was just an excuse for the empowered woman named Nala to once again position herself above the space equivalent of a white man with toxic masculinity. He confesses to her that back in the day he used He used a sonic weapon to get rid of them, the space pirates. I can remember now, right now, the name of their race. And I was listening, I was saying to myself, a sonic weapon in space. And I mean, sound needs a medium like water or air to travel. So how is possible for it to do it into the vacuum of its space if there is no wind or anyway? While all this was going on the Miyazaki, after a convincing fight, the cadets barricade themselves on the bridge. Now it's Sam's turn to shine and save the day and save the men. And by the men I mean Caleb and Bobby, because Bobby, I think it's because Jaden and Darren, his boyfriend, are in their own separate category. And as always in this kind of shows, real men are portrayed not as men but as children. That's why Bobby was carrying with him a comic with the story about what happened with the original crew of the Miyamoto, I can't remember right now the bloody name, which they used it to convince the onboard computer, after some reactivated and fixed her, to recognize them, the cadets, as the new crew. The scene of the comic being scanned by the computer, it's the stupidest thing I've seen since last episode. Anyway, once again, Sam orders the computer what to do and she saves the day. But after that, because now it's the turn of the third empowered young woman, using her mental powers, because this episode finally made it clear that betazoids communicate telepathically, which made it completely stupid for them to use sign language, especially if they isolated themselves from everything. Tarima manifests herself in front of Caleb to save him. Because unlike how he was shown in the first episode, fighting these thug guys and being rude and stuff, almost a soft version of a really soft version of Riddick. Now he's a deconstructed man, so he's almost always portrayed as fragile and helpless, and that's why he needs a woman to save him, or in this case, Tarima. After explaining the situation about the group to Nala, the woman on the crew came up with an idea or a plan about how to fix the whole situation. And in this plan, Tarima will tell Caleb exactly what and when to do to take out the Furies. And I want to make a pause here again, because the only appearance of Tarima's brother in the whole episode was just as a backup and to exalt Tarima, because in her presence he acts like an even bigger buffoon that usually he is. Insecure, and not just in how he speaks, stammering sometimes, but in his posture too. And this is yet another one of those man-woman dynamics in this show, where the man's job is to make the woman look more imposing and stand out even more. Anyway, back to the sonic weapon idea. Tarima, through her mental conversation with Caleb, unleashed the equivalent of a banshee scream to make the Fury's ears explode and save everyone. As a consequence, she ends up in a coma because, of course, it couldn't be less dramatic if the heroine doesn't pay the price for saving them all. If that's not the case, where is the drama? And as a conclusion to this plot thread, we got the second death of the episode, Babis. The first one was the Lieutenant Commander Tormo, something like that, who actually behaved like a real superior and instructor, sacrificing himself so his subordinates could escape. In Bobby's case, I find his death completely pointless, I must say, because he was a character with zero development, generated no empathy from the audience, and therefore had zero emotional impact when he died. His death was the equivalent of reading an obituary on Google News. And that's how we reach the third and final part. Apparently, the whole situation, was Nusbraka's plan, and it was to destroy some ships belonging to the Federation that were getting in the way of his schemes and his way. Personally, while I do spot some inconsistencies, like him revealing the Fury's real weakness, the rest I can actually make fit into a logical framework, I must say. Even though I'm more than sure that a lot of the events I can rationalize without coping, I'm sure those were just ideas the writer threw out there without any real backstory or thought. That's for sure. And the fact that he did all this purely out of hatred for Nala, I find it simply sublime. Because personally, I hate her as a character too. She's everything that's wrong not with just modern literature, but with movies and TV shows in general. A character whose only real merit is what is between her legs and nothing more. And seriously, watching Nusbraka positioning himself above everyone, rub it in their faces that they've been dancing in the palm of his hand from the minute one, and being able to find logic in almost every event tying back to the bigger plan, was what made this character my favorite in the series so far. I know in the end Nala will kill him with some stupid forced plan and with a plot armor, and he'll make every damn mistake in the book just to reach that conclusion, but until then I'm sticking with this end. And that is for the analysis of episode 6 of Star Trek Starfleet Academy. I hope this new format was more enjoyable for you guys. The truth is, this series, this TV show, is thought to swallow, not just because of the lack of logic and coherent plots of the characters who have no real personality, development, or growth, but because the writers clearly have no clue how to write a proper sci-fi story, because they don't know anything about fiction, let alone actual science. So, if you like the video, give it a like, share, and subscribe so you stay tuned for the plot analysis of the next episode. See you next time with episode 7 of Starfleet Academy. Thanks for your time and see ya.